was a system that was developed by hearing people. Really Karen Bornstein, or Karen Saulnier, I mean. But Harry Bornstein is the first author. So you might know this system as the Bornstein system. It's a blue kind of turquoisey cover book. And it's the signed English preschool series that many of us were enamored with 20 years ago. That this is the real gift, I think, from this system. One of the differences as we move across the continuum is that unlike C1 and C2, signs are used to denote more than one English word. So now we're coming into a sign system where there would be one sign for several words. And that's one of the biggest differences. Another thing about this system that's, I think, important is, unlike the C2 people, the authors or their proponents never had an opportunity or never were funded for an opportunity, however you should say that, to go around the country and do skill shops so that people knew how to use or know how to use their system. And so when you come to a sign like figured out, it's not real clear how you sign something like figured out or figures out. Do you pop it in the middle? Do you do it before? Do you do it after? What do you do about that? And that's a good question. And that's why, like again, in my language sampling of adults, especially teachers and interpreters, I see a lot of inconsistencies in how this system is used. Also in that regard, whereas there's more often to be a policy in place at a school for C1 or C2, there isn't often a policy for signed English or manual English as you might know it. So lots of times teachers are just there, they're on their own, and nobody is saying, well, let's all do it this way. Now that doesn't mean that if you use signed English or manual English, you couldn't get together and decide how you were going to handle some of these things. Here's another interesting thing about the Comprehensive Signed English Dictionary. Some signs use the markers. There's 14 grammatical markers in this system. There's about 14 pages of grammatical markers in C2. So you have signs in this system for things like emotionally disturbed. You have the LY and the ED, yet in the same dictionary, they don't use those markers for mentally retarded. Now, you can probably make a rationale there that, well, mentally retarded is a borrowed sign from more like PSE or ASL, and those markers weren't used with that sign. This is a little newer term, so let's supply the markers that we have. I mean, we can always conjure up reasons for these things, but what is important is it makes it difficult, especially for somebody like a parent who's just picking up the dictionary, or somebody like you out in rural Texas and you're just using the dictionary to try to figure out what you're supposed to do. You come upon inconsistencies like this and you're really not sure. And so the net result has been that people sign this system much more inconsistently. I was a signed English user when we first adopted Mary Pat, and I had some interesting experiences as a mother with this system. I'd say things to her. She wore these little jeans, and I'd say, like, unzip your jeans, but then there's not an marker like there's not an affix marker like there is in C1 and C2, so I'd actually have to sign not zip your jeans, which could mean don't zip them up. And although, again, you can always say, well, that'd be in your face, or that'd be, these are the kinds of issues where I think it's important to realize, is the meaning or the semantics that you carry in your brain, is it really getting across to these children? My all-time favorite, and the day that we decided to borrow markers from the C2 system, was with this utterance. Mary Pat used to love, as a 3-year-old, to unclick her seatbelt. Just a little control behavior there. And so I was always telling her to not undo it, to leave it alone. So to say, don't undo your seatbelt, I would actually sign, don't not do your seatbelt, which again had that kind of, what exactly are you trying to tell me here, Mom? Feeling to it. Here's some language sampling that I did. I don't have time to go into a lot of detail here, but these are language samples where what was said spoken is written in lowercase, and what was signed is underlined. And this recurrence and rejection is part of about 25 semantic codes from Bloom and Leahy's taxonomy for semantics. And what I would do for my semantic ratios is I would write down all the language from teachers, and then I would code it according to this Bloom and Leahy list of behaviors. And so this teacher says, she says, yeah, I would not like to go there too. And this yeah is with a affirmative head nod. And what she signs is, nod, I would like to go. And of course I picked these because they beg this question of, is your message really clear? You do not want to walk through the water, right? And she signs, walk through water, right? And here's my all-time favorite, you don't scream out, scream. Now, of course, these are taken out of context, and again, there's lots that you can say, and if you don't think you ever signed this way, think again, because we all do stuff like this. So, again, it isn't the specific, it's just that I just would like us all to think about these issues, and my main point here is a lot of times the meaning gets messed up if you really aren't trying to sign the form.